Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to the episode 2 of Undiscovered Gems interview series. Before I get into anything, I want to mention that you can ask any question during any time during this interview, because I made a channel point redeem option, so I will be going over the questions at the end of the interview, but you can ask them previously at any time with that option. So today's guest is Zabias, and he's an AoE2 streamer who's playing at around 1400 elo in 1v1s, right? And
Yep.
But actually, a big portion of his content is casting games, and he also co-hosted an intermediate tournament last year with Shadow Crystals.
Yeah.
So my opening question would be, how did you get into AoE2 in the first place?
So for AoE2, like many before me, I played it when I was younger. Played it completely casually then, just against AI and things like that. Maybe occasionally tried to play like with my brother, but like, I don't know, it was always the connection was always so bad and things like that back then, so it was mostly just against AI. And then I played just casually throughout the years. But in the competitive scene for AoE, I started almost 2 years ago now. I think that was December of 2019 is when I started playing like any kind of ranked, any kind of competitive Age of Empires. I actually found the scene through a little trouble. I was literally just browsing Twitch one day, and her thing was on the front page, and it said Age of Empires, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't played this game in so long. Like, even against AI at that point, I hadn't played in a while, and I clicked the stream, and that's kind of how I got back into the scene of it.
That's nice. I actually remember the first streamer I ever found out was Memp, and it was some Bog Islands tournament. It was so weird.
Yeah, that would be.
But it actually got me into watching many other streams, so it was nice. So
yeah.
You haven't played before DE, right? Like against other people?
No,
if I recall correctly, 2 years ago was around the time when DE came out.
Exactly. DE came out in, I think, November, and I bought it, and then I was just like watching streams and stuff, and I was like, this is cool, these people are awesome at the game and everything. And then yeah, I started I saw just a little bit of Voobly through like Little Trouble stream, and I think maybe Moonfaller stream as well, because those were like the first two streamers that I saw. And yeah, I fell in love with it.
Cool. So you like follow a lot of tournaments as well, right?
For the most part, yeah. I think Nilly NAC3 was the first major tournament that I saw. That was amazing. It blew my mind. And then I've obviously been keeping up with like Red Bull Wololo and all those things.
Yeah. Are you planning to go to the next NAC if it happens?
Ooh, I really want to, but there's just like so many variables in that. Like, for me to be able to fly across the ocean and go to it, it would take a lot of planning, but I definitely want to go to at least some LAN event someday.
Yeah, it's quite tough nowadays with restrictions and all that, so yeah, it's hard to plan ahead. I think even Nilly said that he wouldn't want to start the next NAC until things are more clear about it, so like he can also plan better. So I think that's a good attitude to have about it.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm not sure why they rushed with the fifth Red Bull now. I'm not even really following it, because it's just happening so fast, and it's like the last Red Bull just finished a couple months ago, right? So I'm not
Not
sure.
even, I think. Like, it feels like it was last month. And I only knew this one was starting because I saw it in someone's stream title today. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's already the next Red Bull. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's good.
Yeah, hopefully it will be a great event. It's just, I don't know, we could have waited a bit longer. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Alright, my next question would be, do you plan on improving further as a player?
So, originally my goal was actually to reach the 1400 level. When I first started playing ranked, I was like, I know 1200 is good, but 1400 is something that I see a lot of players at that looks like still really competitive, but also still like you're able to have fun without too much stress. Because I think for me personally, if I get too invested and go too hard, I kind of lose the fun in the game. So if I do go past the level I'm at now, it will definitely be at more of a casual level, like slowly improving over time, as opposed to like really focusing, reviewing all my recs and things like that. Obviously, I'll pick some stuff up since I cast a lot. I'll pick things up from better players, and then hopefully that will improve me over time. But I'm not sure I want to fully invest to go up to like the 2K level. But I could change my mind as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good attitude to have. Like, not everyone can be a pro, and not everyone wants to be a pro, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really important to be able to enjoy games at any level, and if you if you can't, it's gonna be really tough to just play, because it's gonna feel like a lot of work. I've definitely fallen into that mistake as well. So yeah,
that's unfortunate. Yeah,
you so gotta just. Sorry. Go ahead.
If I can ask, so is this your kind of way of dialing back and kind of connecting with the community?
Actually, it's not really related to that. I just had this idea in my mind, and I wanted to execute it. It's also good to get out of my comfort zone a bit, because this is something that I've never done.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyway, back to you. So you play a lot on stream as well. Do you play off stream as well? Like
I do. Yeah. Mostly team games. Off stream.
And how do you find the difference between playing like a serious 1v1 off stream and on stream?
I'd honestly say, and it's the silliest thing, I can play a little bit better off stream because my microphone isn't in front of my keyboard. Sometimes I get lost when I'm playing on my keyboard where I'm at. Like, for whatever reason, when I start to play, I just forget how to type. It just, all of that goes out of my mind, and it's more of like reactive pressing of where I think my hand is. So if I lose where I'm at on the keyboard, I have to look down real quick to see where I'm at. But if my mic's in front of me, I have to look around my mic to see my keyboard. And that obviously like slows me down and messes me up with things. So yeah, I get slightly better, but not too much. It just depends.
Okay, so for you it's like a inconvenience factor because of positioning and stuff. I was curious to know if it actually impacts your performance in general, because I see many streamers that are affected by it. Like, they play 100 or even 200 elo better when they are not on stream, because it puts so much pressure on them, I guess.
Yeah.
But
for me,
for you, that's not a thing, right?
No, not so much. I get so in tune with the game, and this is something that I actually want to pull back a little bit. That I'm like, what is the phrase that I'm looking for? I'm just like, I have tunnel vision on the game only, and I almost forget that chat's there and that I'm streaming and things like that because I'm so into the game. Which is why I also tend to cast so I can spend some time actually talking with chat and things like that. So
yeah. That makes sense. So you said you play both TGs and 1v1s. What would you say is your satisfaction level, I guess, with how 1v1s and TGs are implemented in matchmaking?
So if I'm understanding correctly, kind of like how they find the games like match up against opponents and things like that?
What is your general feeling? Are you satisfied with how the matchmaking works in the... That would be my question.
Yeah.
I phrased it weirdly.
No, I was just slow to understand. It was what I was thinking. I think for the most part, I think the matchmaking's good. Every now and then I will see some matchup that hasn't necessarily fit into the criteria, and like the opponent might be a little out of your level, because I think it is nice to face someone right around your level, your skill, so you can kind of get that satisfaction out of like your small improvements in your gameplay. That's kind of like a mental win for a person. And if they play slightly worse, like if you're having a slightly off day, you're still not going to get, beaten disastrously. As far as team games, I think it would also work, but in my opinion, there is a large percentage of the player base who have Smurfs and just create new accounts all the time. For what reason, I don't know. They just enjoy beating people severely in game. But for the most part, when you're playing team games, you're with your friends anyways, and it's like you just kind of blow that off and you say, yeah, whatever. They can enjoy that win. Like, we'll just play another one. 14.
Right. I actually remember the very first encounter I had with you, like the very first time I had popped into your stream. You were talking about Smurfs. This is something that stuck with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I guess most people don't like when they face this, and I also don't agree that it's a good thing to be smurfing in general. It's kind of selfish, and
yeah.
I mean, even in team games, it's... I just don't see a good reason to... I don't see a valid reason to do it. Let's just say it. And I'm willing to fight anyone on this. but
yeah,
you're not one of those.
Right. And like for my stream as well, if I do team games with people, I ask that nobody plays on Smurfs. Generally, I can tell if someone is on a Smurf, and I'll be like, hey, please go on your main account and things like that, just because I don't want to support it. I think like you just gotta, maybe people get the wrong idea about it, or they're too worried about their elo or things like that. And I just think you have to take it as like, this is you as a whole. So like, even if I'm, drinking with my buddies on a Saturday playing AoE, this is still you. Like, that's still the player you are. And I don't think it makes sense to like make alternate accounts just because you're like doing crazy strats. Like, do the crazy strat as you are, and you'll still balance out in elo. Like, you'll lose and then you can still do that crazy strat. And that's kind of like my reasoning earlier when I was like, oh, I kind of want to be around the 1400 level, because I think now too that I can do funky strats and also still come close to winning in some games, or win with those funky strats. But like when I play serious, it's still like around my level, and yeah, that's kind of all my mood with that.
I'm really glad to hear that, because I actually have like the exact same opinion about this.
Really?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, and when people create like these alternate accounts, whatever the reason might be, they don't wanna play funky strats on their main, or they feel stressed about it, or whatever. It's kind of pushing responsibility away, right? So like, you're saying that this is not me, but this I'm only this player when I'm in full serious mode, and when that's not really the case, and you're not really trying to prove anything for just a rank ladder. It's just rating. You can get it back.
Yeah,
that's just how I see it. So yeah, I'm glad that someone shares my POV on this.
And like, actually, a thought just spawned in my head off that. one of the biggest examples I can think of, like, oh, if you lose the rating, it's fine, you can gain it back. I know I'm giving other people shout-outs today. They're just really inspirational people, I think, in the community. But Moonfather, if he had a matchup that he just like didn't feel good about, or if he faced an opponent that he generally felt was someone whatever for whatever reason, he would resign, go to the next game, stay happy, and like I'd seen him do that so many times. He would just be like, "Oh, I'm not feeling good about this part." He's like, "I will resign here," and he'd say GG and resign and things like that. And he would do that like often. If he matched up against certain people, he would just resign because they were rude people or things like that. But he always gained the elo back. And he didn't do it intentionally to drop. Let me clarify that, to drop elo. Right. But he could go back and gain that elo back, and now look at him. He's 2K. So he just worked on improving and focused on himself.
Yeah, that's the most important part. Like, you wanna improve your skills, you wanna learn the game, and not gain points that don't really matter in the end.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you about the map pool system. So let's start with 1v1s. Are you satisfied with it? Would you change something about it?
Personally, I don't feel it affects me too much, no matter what the map pool is. I'm a majority Arabia player. I will play any map if I get it, but I favorite Arabia, and honestly, most of the time I get Arabia. That being said, I only have, I think, 300 1v1s roughly, maybe a little less. So I have maybe less games played, or maybe it's just the time, but I always seem to get Arabia.
Yeah, I also get Arabia most of the time, even though I don't favorite it. It's just the most popular map, simply.
I actually saw that Arena gets more play than Arabia. There was a statistic that they had on one of their sites.
Really?
I thought that was interesting.
That would surprise me.
I guess it makes sense because there is a lower player base, or like the majority of the player base is a bit lower rated, and I think they tend to enjoy more closed maps, so it makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. I was thinking like strictly in terms of quote-unquote better players, because
yeah,
most of the high-level players I know would prefer Arabia any day.
But they're not the majority, so yeah.
Yeah, we tend to forget about that. By the way, have you played on the newest Arabia?
I have a couple times. I think they were all team games so far, but if I can assume your question, I like it.
It got mixed responses, I think. A lot of people were complaining about how it suits aggressive style too much, which I don't really agree with. What I don't like about it personally is the fixed res positions. Like, would always spawn in the back, for example. You always have heals in front. It reduces variety, and I think variety is what makes Arabia so good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The thing I like about it, and I think it just fits me really well right now, because I was looking at improving playing a more open, aggressive play style, and then kind of progressively walling as I'm like fighting my opponent. So I was learning on focusing more on seeing like what buildings my opponent has to make sure I'm making the right counter unit, because honestly I never really did that before. I just made whatever unit I wanted, but I did it so precisely and like had that bit of micro that I was able to kind of outplay people with my strategy. And so now with this new Arabia and this aggressive play style, I think it works for me that I get to practice now this like, oh, drop a range with my stable to get skirms to complement my scouts and things like that. So for the moment, I like it overall.
Yeah, I think it's really good to just learn how to play with more army presence. It's good to forces you to learn counters and everything. So yeah, I also like the fact that it's more open, but what I don't like is what I previously said. But yeah, I think we are in a good state with Arabia for the most part.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So my next bigger topic would be casting. How did you get into casting in Age?
That's a great question. Think. Now, I had watched previously and played, obviously, a lot of League of Legends, and that made up a lot of my gaming for, say, I think like 10 years, 13 years, something like that. I mostly played League of Legends, and there was a big casting scene for them. They hosted like a lot of, great tournaments, NALCS, and things like that, and all the big competitions and things like that. And it always just appealed to me, like the production that they set up for these events, and I saw it as something I could do, and I had fun doing it. So that's kind of, I guess there's no like big answer. I just kind of went for it, honestly. If I really think down to it.
That's pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
So you haven't casted in other games, only Age, right?
Yeah, correct.
Then you picked up the pace quite well, I must say.
Thank you.
I recall one instance when I tuned into your stream, and it was during the Town Bar Cup. I think it was the last edition.
Mm-hmm.
And you casted like every game in the brackets. That was insane. I just don't know how people stream for so long, and especially with like casting where you have to constantly talk. How do you deal with the fatigue when that happens?
I don't really get fatigued when I cast. For me, it's relaxing. I love learning new things, and so like that just keeps me intrigued the whole time, keeps me focused, and I can pull like 12-hour streams most every day. I can't do like 1v1 streams for an entire like 12 hours because that does take another level of like focus and energy, but just being at the computer and in front of the camera and just talking for the most part, it's pretty easy for me personally. I don't know what it is. I'm wired different, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe so. I guess you're the extrovert type then.
Yeah,
although it's
a little bit.
Not quite the same thing, but extrovert people tend to not get fatigued by talking.
Yeah. It's interesting because I actually had this discussion lately with some people, and how I used to be so very introverted. When I grew up, actually, I was just the quiet kid in school, like all throughout, just focused on like my grades and things like that. Didn't really talk to anyone that I didn't need to. Obviously, I still had friends, mostly because like I was in sports and things like that. But I was just quiet and content being there, listening to people. And then eventually, I got a job as a waiter, as a server, and then eventually a bartender at that same place. And that's when I like focused on like, hey, I got to be able to talk to people and make, good relationships with these people. And honestly, I did make a lot of like great friends through the restaurant, and that's just kind of how I became more outgoing, I think, and I learned to love it a little, just like talking to people and meeting new people.
Yeah, that's really nice. I don't know what that's like. I guess I'm way different. I actually like socializing a lot, but it drains me, so I can't do it every day.
Yeah, and that's what some of my friends said as well, and they were like, it comes down to if you're introverted or extroverted. If you're introverted, you still enjoy the company of others, but you have to have the energy because it takes energy out of you. But if you're extroverted, more commonly you like to go out with people and you get your energy from them rather than be drained by them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that's how I do my streaming too now.
Good to know the secret.
Yeah.
So do you like plan on ever becoming one of the quote-unquote big casters, like the likes of Memp, Nearly 8090?
That would be a dream of mine, I think. Because as I said, it gives me so much energy, honestly. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. So if I could get to that level, I would. But for the time being, I'm staying realistic and streaming mostly as a hobby while trying to focus on a career.
Yeah, makes sense. I think while there is a demand for more casters, it's tough to get really on the top level because there are already some established names, so people that know them will usually not search for other people to watch because they already have their set of casters. So in that regard, it's kind of tough on smaller casters that way.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think with time and effort, you can start to get in there. I mean, I think obviously I haven't been following the scene too long, so maybe you can, like the competitive scene. So maybe you can give me some insight on it. But like, it makes me curious how people like Ornlu fit in. I don't know if he was major before, but I only see him like at NAC perhaps. I know he just got partner actually, which congratulations, Ornlu. But casters like him, who was it? From Australia.
Australia.
I think Turk Barbecue.
Yeah. Barbecue.
One of those names. Yeah. I don't know like what their involvement's been through the scene, but it still seems like there are some streamers who aren't like the major ones who still get to participate in these major events, which is honestly really cool as well. I don't know if you have insight on those specific casters or.
But not really these two, but I know Lidakor has been a rather small streamer as well, and just recently he started really growing. So I think there are definitely examples of that. Also I think the two main casters for the latest Masters of Arena are also gaining more popularity, namely Jon Snow and Draken, even though the arena tournaments are more of a niche in the competitive scene, I would say. But I think a lot of collabs will help people grow as well. I don't know if you have any plans on collaborating with other casters. I know you have with Shadow previously, which I will get into the next topic, but besides that, I would like to know if you have any plans.
I love having a co-caster. I think it gives a more entertaining stream to be able to bounce back and forth on topics throughout the game, especially like early game when you've all seen everyone lore Boar before. It's a good time to be able to speak with someone else. And so I do enjoy co-casting myself and bringing in co-casters. So yeah, I don't necessarily plan them out so much. I just kind of like have a few people in my mind, and then if they're kind of available, I'll reach out and try to let them know I'd love to have them and go like that.
Yeah, makes sense. Like when you're not a huge streamer, it's more, what's the word? Spontaneous, I guess. These things.
Because like you also don't have major tournaments. You don't have like the funding from those. You can't necessarily just request time from someone if it's not like their main job. Like T90, if obviously he probably leads a pretty busy life outside of casting and things like that. He has this huge YouTube career, but if you say like, hey, there's a tournament, can you cast? He is much more likely because that's his job. Whereas like if I asked, for instance, Salted Pepper from your last, who has been a co-caster of mine a few times, it's like he might have school, he might just be out with friends or family, which would take precedence because it's not a major event and things like that. So I think that's the difference as well. And for me to try and ask someone like P90 to do an event with me or any of that sort just seems like I need to be like a little more respectful of, who he is. I don't know, maybe that's a weird kind of thought, but he's almost like celebrity status, and I just feel like, low civilian or something. But yeah.
Yeah, it can be difficult to find. I'm losing words. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah,
it can be difficult to mind the gap between some people. Like, we know that streamers have to be most of them are friendly with everyone, but they're not really your friends, so you can't just go up to them and ask for things. So yeah, I definitely understand you in that regard.
Yeah.
So moving on to Crystal Cup, I think that was a lot of fun for most of the participants, and I would like to have your insight on what it was like to be an admin.
Oof. Admin work was a lot. Let me say that. But there were things we learned along the way. It's a little bit stressful because, as we mentioned earlier, one of my biggest concerns or complaints was Smurfs. And I was like, I want to make sure we vet people, make sure they have enough games played so we can know what their proper level is. And we put a lot of thought into it, which, I really appreciated. Shadow and I did a lot of talking back and forth for it, and we kind of came to middle ground on everything because we were both, admins, solid admins of the tournament and all. It was stressful, but worth it, because then we got to have an experience that we designed, that we were sure of, that would produce the best games that we could possibly get, make sure things were competitive and things like that. So that's my opinion of it.
Yeah, I know that being an admin and stuff like that can be really stressful, especially if there are controversial situations, which I don't think there was in that tournament, but still it's a lot of work and people tend to forget that, so yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing probably being scheduling, and perhaps this falls a little bit on us as far as how we tried to organize it. Personally, me and Shadow saw no issue with setting the thing up on AoE zone and then keeping the communications there. But issue is, and we found out after, or kind of during, is that a lot of people don't go on AoE zone every day. They don't log in, they don't check it, they don't look for messages and things like that. And so we ran into a lot of issues where we couldn't reach players. We were trying to figure out their Discord because we asked for that in advance, but then players didn't have it, so we could message them. So scheduling was down to the wire. People were waiting until the very last day of the week to schedule their games that they were supposed to play, and we're like, hey man, you're supposed to schedule this game for sometime this week, not schedule your game on Saturday when the deadline is Saturday. So yeah, that was a bit of an oversight on our part, maybe, to try to do that all through AoE zone, but we got through it. We made it work.
But to be fair, can you really say that there's one universal platform where everyone visits? I don't think so.
No, not exactly.
So unless you create a tournament-specific Discord, which still might have issues because some people are not as familiar with Discord. So yeah, I think there is no perfect solution to that.
Yeah, and maybe that comes back down to the point earlier when these players are other casters, where it's not their full-time job, and so things come up and people can't make it and things like that. They're not as concerned about it, but it happens, I guess.
I actually don't remember if you casted games in that tournament. You have, haven't you?
For Crystal Cup? Yeah. Yeah. I had a bit of an issue for a little bit, where I was working at the time and I was traveling as well. And I remember this because this was a lot of fun to try to do. I wanted to help cast some games. I think this was in one of the first rounds, and my hotel that I was staying in had like no Wi-Fi. They had no Ethernet cables for you to plug into. Like, it was not stream-worthy internet. And I was like, oh man, I need to like cast these games and help out here. I can't just put the whole burden on Shadow or leave the games uncasted. I really wanted them all to be, viewed for the people participating. And I actually came up with this idea where from the hotel, I remote desktoped into my desktop at home, which was powered on, and then started my stream from my desktop at home, went through Discord, made an alternate account so I could track the audio through Discord to my computer at home and stream that audio and the games with good internet from my home computer while across the country.
Now that you mention it, I remember something like that. You were like X hours away from home and you still managed to do it. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty fun time.
Yeah.
Audio was a little bit terrible, but it was there.
Yeah. How did you find the balance of the matches? Like, I personally thought that it was really well executed, the way with 3 brackets, and almost every round it was not a stomp at any point.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I think it made for really great casting, really great viewing experience, things like that. And that comes back down to just properly vetting people and making, when we check people, the purpose of like finding people with a certain amount of games, because that was one of our requirements, is you had to have like 70 or 80 games played in 1v1. Well, that kind of ensures that you're set in your elo, that you're somewhere around that range. Because if you've only played a couple games, there's a lot of, room for either going up or going down. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed the competitive level that we were able to achieve throughout all the brackets. And I think, I'm trying to think who came up with the idea of brackets, if it was Shadow or I, or kind of a combined effort. Shadow did a lot of the like serious work. He came up mostly with like the map pools and the ideas of like if there's picks and bans and things like that. He did a lot of that brain work because he's just been so into the game for so long and knows so much about it. He's a fountain of knowledge in AoE. So sorry, I kind of go off on tangents sometimes.
It's okay. Feel free to. So yeah, that was a fun one. Are there any plans of doing a second edition or something like that?
We've mentioned it here and there. Nothing confirmed yet, though. I think if we do another one, we will ask for some admin help, though, for sure. And then probably do a similar system that Red Bull Wololo does and just have a check-in. And then maybe have backup players, so if someone doesn't check in, then we can still fill the slots and get the games that we'd want to cast.
Yeah, that sounds good.
If there's enough excitement for it, perhaps, then maybe we'd be more willing to make it work for a second edition.
Yeah, I think a lot of players would love it. I'm not sure if the elo ranges would change. I know a lot of players would not fit the elo range that was last time. Like I think it was 1850 or something. That was the max limit, and a lot of players have improved past that by now.
Yeah. And that'd be something to consider if we like would want to try to get the previous players in it and kind of modulate the brackets based on that player base. I've thought of that as well. Perhaps bringing it up into like the 2K1 level would be really cool, especially since, you know, me and Shadow have both improved as casters. We can now analyze the games a lot better, provide a more entertaining, you know, cast of the games. So yeah, I think we would probably move the brackets around a little bit.
Sounds good. Although yeah, like if you want to be more inclusive, then it's gonna be more admin work, so it makes sense to ask for help in that regard.
Yeah. Because we have lives outside of it as well, so
yeah,
it takes a lot of time.
So I believe you do some graphic design, right? At least I know that you've done Shadow's emotes, or at least some of them.
Yep, I do. Yeah.
Where did you learn that skill? Or how did it come into your life?
So I actually used to do a lot of art back in high school. I took a drawing class, I took a painting class, I took ceramics. I took graphic design actually twice through high school, in 2 different years. And yeah, art's always just been something that I've been into. I even was originally going to go into graphic design in college, and I started on that path, but unfortunately got sick and had to like withdraw from college. But I kept up with like, you know, always being into graphic design and things like that. It's just another little thing that I'm passionate about, and that's like I designed all my emotes, all my overlays, and I do like little things here and there for everyone else. I like to help out and improve in that as well.
That's pretty cool. I also wanna learn it better, because I used to be a complete noob at it. I still kinda am, but yeah, it's pretty useful to have as a skill, I would say.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work, a lot of practice to improve, honestly. I was actually pretty embarrassed this one time where I designed something for the streamer, and this is where I found out that I'm not that great at like full screen designs, like from scratch with no other elements added in. Like literally drawing every single thing on a full screen image takes so much skill. And I did this one and I edited it and I was like, oh yeah, I think this looks cool. And I sent it to him, and you know, he gave a nice little, oh, that's very cool. And then I saw a design that someone else did for him later on. And then like as I improved myself, I looked back at that photo and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe I sent this to the guy. And like he had to, you know, act on pretending it's nice because it wasn't. It was very low level. But that's why you gotta work on it and you gotta practice. It takes time.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot harder than it looks, I would say. From my experience, yeah. So, shoot, I forgot. Oh yeah, which softwares do you use?
So, recently, I actually got Photoshop. I used to use Krita, and before Krita, GIMP, I think, was the other one. Those are the like free ones. I was just in a place where I was able to, fortunately, afford Photoshop. It's so expensive though, it's ridiculous. But that's the one I got. Photoshop's the one I used back in high school, so I was so familiar with it. So for me personally, it was like when I was using Krita and these other applications, like they work, but there's so many things that the Photoshop application just does for you. Like, it takes the work out of things, and I was so familiar with like all the controls and all the functions that Photoshop had that I was like, I think this is going to be worthwhile. And honestly, I think it has been so far.
That's pretty cool. I do know a bit of Photoshop myself, although I don't really use it that much. I found it's quite tough to pick up as a beginner, though.
Yeah,
because it's really different than other tools.
Right, and that's probably why like I struggled going into Krita or GIMP, because I was familiar with Photoshop because I had used it before those through school. So yeah, I understand that like trying to learn new software, it's tough. I even don't know Photoshop like in its abilities. I look up a lot of YouTube guides.
Yeah, I guess that's same for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just, you don't know, then search for it.
Yep.
So I actually know a guy in the AoE2 scene that does a lot of artwork for other streamers and YouTubers and whatnot. Is that something you would consider doing? Like, for more people?
I have done a bit of work for other people. Actually have kind of a list here. If I can navigate my own computer files. So I've designed stuff for Zabias Jr., if you've heard of him.
Yep.
I've designed a few things for Debbie. I designed stuff for Dobbs, Eaglebeak. I think I did a little bit of stuff for Gianfranco that he used just temporarily. Iron Chef. I tried full screen stuff for Iron Chef, and that's another place where I found out that it wasn't for me. I was trying to get back into it and giving it some more work, and it just wasn't working. I did a couple concept items for Legion of Loom, but he had his girlfriend design for him. There's Meaty Boy, who's probably not known to most of you guys. I created a few things like emotes and sub badges for him. I tried designing some stuff for Moonfaller, but that fell a little short. Now GZ, Ocean Abyss. Actually, Salted Pepper's little salt shaker. That was a quick little thing I did for him. And then obviously Shadow, and yeah, maybe just various stuff that I don't even have listed here. So I've done quite a bit of work for other people just behind the scenes, and I just do it, kind of on my own time, and I let them know like, hey, I'll do this for free for you if you'd like it. I only ask that you just let me work at my own pace, and I'll get it to you. And then I love like going through and working with people and being like, hey, how does this look? Does this look like something you'd like? And then working on it with them and improving it to their vision, to like how they enjoy it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think many people do it like that. Like, it's really generous that you do these favors.
I mostly do it like that, so there's no expectations too, and if they don't like it, it's not like I don't have to feel anxiety of like, oof, I charged them money for that. Like, it relieves the stress off of me, and I just kind of get it to do it as a hobby to improve. And then maybe someday, if I think I'm to a level that warrants payment, I will consider it. But yeah, just a hobby and stuff for now.
Right. I definitely think you have a good talent for it, and you will be able to go a bit more pro on it if you want to.
Well, thanks.
I saw on your Twitch profile that you are planning to make a YouTube channel. what kind of content can we expect there if it happens?
So obviously there would be like tournament recordings there. That would probably make up the majority of it off the top of my head, casting in tournaments. I've also thought of doing interviews at some point, especially like just keeping up, since it is like such a community feeling that Age of Empire has. Like, I don't see an issue with doing like an interview every year with like some of the well-known community members and just being like, so how's the year been? And kind of like a casual discussion, kind of like a talk show of AoE, and just kind of keeping things in the loop for everyone. That's something I've considered for YouTube as well. But that's another area where, for me, I would want to go all in on like editing and things like that. And so that's something that I've been slowly trying to learn. But my PC can't run the good software I have. So I get a bit frustrated with the older and the free stuff. So that kind of been sidelined until maybe I can work on improving with editing and things like that.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Personally, I use a free software, and for me it does the job, but if you want to make it more professional, then it makes sense to do it with a better software, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps I'm like overthinking what it needs to be and like what needs to be done. But I'm like so nitpicky with my own art and things like that, and I consider it like a form of art in a way. I look up to perhaps the League of Legends scene and everything they do with like their casts and their recordings, and I just, for me personally, I'm like, could I achieve that level in my own like YouTube videos? And I spend a lot of time on YouTube as well, watching plenty of content throughout, and I see all these amazing channels out there, and I'm just like, this is the level that I want to strive for. And so like I've been kind of either all in or all out on the YouTube thing, you know. And for now, that's all out until I can work on all that.
Yeah, I think YouTube videos are definitely a lot of work too. It's a different kind of content than live streaming. You spend a lot more time on small nuanced stuff, like yeah. But I guess you will get into it with time. Yeah,
hopefully. That's the plan. Always has been. That YouTube thing was like, the little banner was like one of the first things I created, because I always planned to do Twitch and YouTube as a pair. It's just been put off for a while. So hopefully I will get into it sooner than later.
At some point.
Yeah.
Do you have any explicit plans for Twitch in the future regarding your stream? Any goals, some stuff like that?
Partner is definitely a goal off the top of my head. That's kind of like, for me, if I wouldn't reach partner, I couldn't see myself streaming for like an extended time. I would still do it probably casually, but to like just streaming, in my opinion, a couple hours every weekend still takes like a lot of work. And if you always want to like try to improve your stream, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into like setting up your stream, making sure viewers have a good time, and making sure that you're doing a good job. So that's like one of my biggest goals, is eventually hitting partner. There's not really a timeline for that yet, but what other goals would I have for my stream per se? I guess I do a lot of things just like in the moment. So I don't know if I've set too many long-term goals for it.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's you have more freedom with what you want to do and plan out when you are not what's it called? You're not partnered or big streamer. You are not bound by these things as much, so it gives you more room, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So I have one more topic that I just improvised, but I'm not sure if this is something you want to talk about, because it's a bit of a sensitive one. Feel free to say no if you don't wanna. So
yeah.
You mentioned that you took a break recently from streaming. I think it was for a couple months.
Yeah.
So what was the reason for that?
So there's been a couple things, and mostly it's just like a compiling of events that all have taken place kind of at the same time and have just been really taxing for me. There's, for instance, I don't know if many people know, but I have arthritis throughout my whole body, and without medication that can get pretty gnarly. It can keep me pretty immobile and just feeling a bit down. That really drains on my health. And because of the US and our healthcare system, well, I also lost my job, which means I also lost my insurance, which means I lost my medication. So all these things kind of tack on to each other. And then I was having other health issues at the same time as the arthritis. And these things all like start to really weigh on you and drain you every day. Where for me, like, it was difficult for me to kind of get out of bed. It was just like I was laying there and like either I physically wasn't feeling able to move, or mentally I was just like drained and just very out of it. I won't go into the other topic, but there were also family issues that I was dealing with at the same time as well that are actually still ongoing, but I'm just trying to work through it as best as I can. There's a lot of things that happen for people behind the scenes, I guess you'd say, and it can add up, and it was a pretty rough time, I'd say, for me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really sorry to hear about that. Like, it's always tough to deal with stuff like that when just shit hits the fan and everything falls apart like that.
Yeah. And mostly it was just like because everything was just like going wrong all at the same time. It was just a lot to deal with, but we're doing better now. And honestly, like, one of the things I mentioned as I came back to streaming this past week or so is like, I also thought not streaming was going to help me focus and get, my life back on track. But I feel like that was kind of a mistake in hindsight. I didn't realize how much like having the community around me helped me. So I'm very, very grateful for that, because the Age of Empires community is just an amazing group of people, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear, and we're glad to have you back.
Yeah.
Alright, time for audience questions, if there have been any. I'm not sure if there has, let me check. So, Farman asked how long has ZeroZabias has been streaming for?
So, back in the day, I actually tried streaming a little old school RuneScape. I also at one point wanted to stream Minecraft, and back then there was something wrong with my computer. It's literally the same computer, but it just wouldn't work for streaming. I don't know what was wrong. But like for serious streaming and things like that, I think I started it up basically the same time I started AoE, which is about December of 2019. That's when I really got into streaming. Everything else before then, it was like I tried for maybe like a week, but then you sit at that point where you just have like nobody there and you're just like, yeah, I'm not so sure. So for the most part, just the past 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think every streamer goes through that first phase of, yeah, I mean, I'm just by myself, you know. It's
Yeah, it's tough.
tough to
It
keep
really
talking, yeah. But you get through it after a while, so it's not so bad. Oh, Salted even raided me. It's too bad we are closing in at the end, but thank you for the raid, Salted.
We can see if they have questions as well.
Yeah, feel free to ask any questions, guys. You don't have to use the channel points, it's just there for convenience sake, because I would probably miss that if it's asked at the beginning, but we are closing it at the end, so any questions are welcome.
How's the weather been there for you so far?
It's changing a lot, which is not good for me, because I'm sensitive to weather changes, whether it's from cold to hot or in reverse.
Yeah, same here.
So yeah, a lot of headaches, but
yeah,
summer hasn't been too bad. It's mostly been sunny, so it's alright.
Yeah, our weather's calming a little bit here right now. I'd say Michigan, which is where I live, has some of the nicest weather for like the longest period of time. Like even in our summers when it does get hot here, and I'd say I'll put it into Celsius for most of you people here. I think it gets to around 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. But it's not humid at all. So it's just the heat and it feels absolutely lovely. And then we have a pretty nice fall duration where it's like 12 degrees Celsius roughly. And it's just a really nice period. You just throw on a sweater or a hoodie and you can go outside and still have a really nice time. We have some really nice, love that.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. For me, it's really tough to find that range where I don't feel too hot and too cold. I don't know how it is for other people. Ragni asked a question. If you can change one thing in AoE2 right now, what would you change?
One thing in AoE2 that I could change. The only thing that I can think of, and it's not some, well, I guess I couldn't change that. What could I change? Ragni has me thinking deep here.
It's a broad topic. I'm not sure if he includes like the community as well, or just strictly the game. I don't know.
I guess, well, yeah, based off that, if there were anything in AoE2 I could change right now, it would be the fact that North America doesn't have a lot of big events for Age of Empires, and I think we need to bring some here. I think there needs to be a big old American party, you know, big old LAN event somewhere with the good Americans, because there are some of us out there. Yeah.
That would be cool. I haven't heard of any events like that. I only heard of the European ones. Like there's the NEC, of course. There was a couple of English meetups in London, I think, or somewhere in the country. and I think there was a meetup of a couple people at Moonfaller's place, if I recall.
Yep. Yeah, he streamed that. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Just a smaller thing, I think, than he actually planned originally because of all the ongoing events, but yeah.
Farmman asks, what does Zabias think about the Alt F4 situation? It's a loaded question.
Maybe this can tie in with Regni's question of what would I change. I would, for one, be for giving more bans to players in the ranked map pools. Like, I think it is great that ranked kind of forces you to try to play different map styles and different civs and everything like that. Like, I think learning to play random civs all the way up through the ladder is really impressive and something people should strive for. I think that creates the most fun games, the most relaxed experience while learning the game. And so, like, that kind of goes with the maps as well, you know, open up to different maps that you have to adjust for with your civ. You know, your civ might be stronger on a certain map, things like that, obviously. So I would get rid of that if we could, but I also wonder if the Age of Empires community would be able to. But I think maybe one of the ways around that is just giving people bans to get rid of the maps they don't want, and just they wait longer to find a game, but they can at least play the map they want to play. That's something I would hope that they will try at some point for Age of Empires.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, it would be much simpler to just let people choose what they want to play, and yeah, it would take longer, obviously, to find a game, but you wouldn't waste anyone's time unnecessarily. Especially in team games, I think it's really selfish to do that. Like, even though it's the way I see it, Alt F4 is not really the root of the problem, because the root of the problem is that some people just don't want to play certain maps. So it could be solved by just letting people queue for what they want to play.
Yeah, agree. I again think those people are a bit selfish. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I'll play any map, even though I mostly just want to play Arabia. If I get another map, I will absolutely play it. Personally, I don't enjoy the fact that people alt F4. There's like actually a similar issue and like topic of controversy through the Rocket League community, where they have people who just like back out of these games because half the community views them as like casual games, like that they don't mean much, but because they have like they have casual lobbies and ranked lobbies, and so these people go into the casual lobbies and they'll play for like a minute and then they'll back out and leave, and then you're left with like no teammate for a bit or a bot that is useless in the game. So it's like how people feel about abandoning, like how they feel using their time to play out a game where they don't value it. So like these people alt F4 because they don't think playing arena is worth their time and things like that. And personally for me, I'm like, hey, it's worth the time to just play it, just try it for a little bit, and if you don't win, you don't win. You resign and you play the next one. That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think I ever alt F4'd. At least I don't remember a case for it, but yeah, obviously there's been some map pools that I really didn't like, but in that case I just wouldn't play as much, so I won't waste other people's time. At least that's just how I see it.
Yeah, that's another really good way to go around it. Just play lobbies or something in the meantime, or play team games instead of 1v1s if you don't like the 1v1 map pool.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if you want to improve, then not being able to play on your maps is kind of bad, but not what did I want to say? Playing is not the only way to improve. Like, there are so many other things you can do. You can watch your recs, you can try to look for things to get better at, and so on.
Yeah, definitely. That might be a good time for people to sit down and just review what they've already done, rather than going in and wasting people's time.
Yeah. Alright, I believe that was all the questions for now. If there are not any more, then I would like to give you a shout out with your permission.
Yeah.
So, your Twitch is this link, and you also have a Discord, for which I'll send the invite as well. So guys, feel free to... Yeah?
I was gonna say, those are currently the only two things I have.
Yeah, that's the only two things I know of, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I got them right. So guys, feel free to drop him a follow and things like that. Make sure to check out his content. And for me, that's it for now. I think if you have any closing words, feel free to share them.
Just thank you so much for having me here. This was a really fun interview. I really enjoyed it. And good luck with the next one. Hope to see it soon. I watched the whole Salted one in its entirety, so I'm looking forward to the next one as well.
Glad to hear it. Thanks.
Yep.
Alright, bye YouTube.
See you guys.